right. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. A lot of you have been joining us all week, all month, all year long. But if you are new to us today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And it's particularly exciting of all the weeks to be joining us because this is Ocean Week. So this is our biggest week of the year, every year since we were founded back in 2014. We've got 21 broadcasts with the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. And today really epitomizes what it's all about. My colleague Joe is just wrapping up live with elephant seals on a beach in California. We've been live to talk about the digital economy and how sustainable futures can be built with that. We've talked about Arctic jellyfish today. It's just been an absolutely wild ride. Everything we do is on our YouTube channel, so you can check out all these broadcasts and this one. Share with your family and friends. Lots of fun to be had. I will note before we get underway with our topic du jour that we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our question period, we're going to have a little 4-question quiz to test your understanding, have a little bit of fun. Feel free to bring that up in a second tab. Our speaker too has a bunch of questions for you. So if you're on YouTube or StreamYard and you want to be quick on the draw in the chat, please do play along. There's lots of opportunity we have for some extra interactive fun in today's broadcast. Now, I'm particularly excited too, because as I was saying to her before we got underway, there's an organization that my colleague Joe has partnered with for years, and they are the Marine Megafauna Foundation. They help protect and preserve the coolest, biggest animals in our oceans. And every time we do a program with them, Joe hosts. And I get to be sad and I cry in the background and I'm so bummed out. And today I get the chance to welcome in Jessica Pate. She's going to talk to us today about her Florida Manta Project. Her work has taken her all over the world, but today she's joining us on the East Coast of the US to talk about her work to understand and save one of the true giants, the most incredible creatures the oceans have to offer. So without further ado, I'm going to zip it. Jessica, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and take us away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Let me get my screen shared.
It wants to work. It's thinking about it.
Nah.
You are golden. You're in like Flynn. Perfect. We'll just make it full screen and we'll be good. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for coming to listen to me talk about manta rays. My name is Jessica Pate, and I founded the Florida Manta Project. And I'm a researcher with the Marine Megafauna Foundation. And our goal is to save ocean giants from extinction. So I'm going to start today by talking about manta rays. And the first question I always like to answer is, what's the difference between a manta ray and a stingray? Because they are very different creatures that live very different lives. So a stingray, which is the one you see on the bottom, is adapted for a life in the sand. So they're spending most of their life either right on top of the sand or buried in the sand. And a manta ray, in contrast, is swimming through the water all the time. They have to keep swimming in order to breathe. So you're never going to see a manta ray resting in the sand. And their body adaptations show or reflect this lifestyle. So for a stingray, they have eyes on top of their head because they only need to see up above to look out for predators or possibly look for food. Manta rays have eyes on the sides of their head so they can see below and above them. And also, while stingrays, like their name suggests, have a stinging barb on their tail, manta rays do not have a stinging barb. There is no way that they can hurt you, and they are truly gentle giants. So here's my first question for you guys is, how big can a manta ray get at their largest size?
Ooh, I will say too, this might feature in our Kahoot a little later. I might have done meters instead of feet for this for our Canadian friends because I'm Canadian. But what do we think? 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, or 25 feet? We've got D. Okay. So people are thinking 25 feet. You're going really big with this. What does anyone else think a little bit smaller? I want to say too, I used to work at Ripley's Aquarium in Toronto, and we had a manta ray picture on the wall. So I'm really used to seeing how monstrous they can get. We got 15 feet from one of our crowd, YouTuber C from Nicaragua. Jessica, so C or D, we think they're really big, but tell us a little more.
All right. Well, you guys are correct. They are very big, and they can get up to 25 feet across. In meters, that's going to be about 7 to 8 meters. And you can take a look at this diver right here. She's about 5 feet 8 inches, and just look at her size compared to a manta ray. And I want you guys to think if you're 5 feet tall, if you spread your arms out, that should be about 5 feet. Think about that going 5 times around the room or across the way. And would the manta ray fit in the room you're sitting in right now? It would not fit in my current room. So manta rays are the biggest rays in the ocean. They're the biggest rays that have ever lived. And they're just really, truly can get massive. Another unique feature of manta rays is their cephalic fins. So these are these fins that come out of their head. They can be rolled up when they're swimming, or they unfold them when they want to feed. So mantas are what are known as filter feeders, kind of like a big whale is. They go around in the ocean looking for plankton-rich water. They especially like these tiny little shrimp-like creatures called copepods. And when they find one, they unroll their cephalic fins, which acts as a funnel, and all the yummy water full of all the shrimp goes straight into their mouth. And they have a very special adaptation in their gills. They have these little feathery-like structures, and that traps all the plankton in their gills. So while the water goes out, the plankton gets trapped, and then they're able to swallow it. And that is how manta rays eat. And so when there's lots of plankton in an area, manta rays will gather to feed in an area, sometimes for hours. I think there's like 8 or 9 manta rays in this video I took off the coast of Florida. So they'll just stay there for a while. They'll feed right over the sand. So depending on where the food is, depends on where they will feed. Sometimes they'll feed right on the surface of the ocean with almost their backs out of the water, chomping on that lovely plankton at the surface. And when they find a really good area, they'll do these little loop-de-loops called barrel rolls, just to get all the plankton throughout the water column. It's really fun to see that. I actually saw a manta ray doing that yesterday. So another thing that's very cool about manta rays is that they show curiosity to humans. So as a scuba diver who has spent a lot of time in the ocean, most of the time when you're in the water with fish or even sharks, they don't really want anything to do with you. They tend to swim away or just don't care. But mantas will sometimes do this behavior where they flip upside down and they look you right in the eye and show a lot of curiosity. And we think mantas might be curious because we think they might be really smart. And why we think that is they have really large brains. And you might be thinking, well, manta rays, they're huge. We just learned that they're 7 to 8 meters across. They should have a large brain, but they have a large brain for their body size. And so what that means is, say we have their cousin, the whale shark, which is also a filter feeder. The whale shark is 10 times the size of a manta ray in weight. But when you look at their brains, a manta ray's brain is 3 times the size of a whale shark's brain. So they have a big brain for their body. It's very similar to humans. We have big brains for our bodies. And we think this is likely because they're social creatures who need to remember a lot of information, which is really cool. It's one of my favorite facts about manta rays. So I'm going to take you on what it's like when we go out and do a Florida Manta Project survey. So we go in our research vessel, which is right here with the blue T-top here. And we drive the boat along the coast looking for manta rays. We'll launch our drone, which will fly while the boat is going. And we're looking for this black diamond shape with the white fins coming out of the mouth. That's the kind of shape I'm looking for on the drone. And then we'll slowly approach the manta ray with the boat. Then I will get in the water. We do this all by snorkeling or free diving. We don't put scuba tanks on our backs because we typically find the mantas here in very shallow water. We'll slowly approach the manta from the side. They can see you better from the side, and we don't want to block their path of travel. And so I'm kind of swimming right up to the manta, and then I'm going to take a dive underneath the manta. And the reason we do this is because each manta ray has a unique spot pattern. So you see those 2 big black spots on its belly? These are unique to each manta ray, just like a fingerprint. So this is an important way we can study mantas, is by getting to know the individuals. So I'll take that photo we got of the spot pattern that we get in the field, and I'll bring it home and compare it to our database. So again, this is showing you what the spot pattern looks like. This is a female manta named Ginger. And I wanted you guys to practice being manta ray researchers and helping me match some manta ray patterns. So if you look on the left side, there's 1, 2, 3. These mantas match up with mantas A, B, and C on the right side that we're seeing on different days.
Okay, what do we think, kids? This is good. I've done mapping things like this before where they're really, really challenging. I think there's a few real telltale giveaways in some of these that help us understand which one is which. Maybe in the middle one, those 2 little extra spots, the tinier ones, might give you a little bit of a hint. How are we matching? StreamYard, YouTube, feel free to get in the chat. So yes, 2C coming through, 2C, that might be a little bit of a hint, okay? On the top one, there's one big patch. What does he sort of correspond to? 1B, 2C, and 3A is one of our things, Mr. Hancock's class. I think that might be, yeah, so our audience is doing really well. I think they've got them all right. So yeah, so 2C, 1B, and 3A is our general answer from everyone, Jessica.
Well, you guys can be a manta ray biologist. You guys did great. Yeah, number 1 is a juvenile male named Rocco. That was the second manta I ever saw in Florida. Number 2 is a female named Bimini. And number 3 is a male named Jigsaw. So awesome job, everybody. You guys are all fantastic manta researchers. If you ever want to do some work for me, let me know. And we can use these spot patterns, and why we want to know individuals is because we can learn a lot about them. For example, we're going to talk about one of my absolute favorite mantas named Lizard. We've seen her 65 times in 2 years. And we first saw her in October 2022. And when we measured her, she was 8.5 feet across. We again saw her 2 years later in October 2024. And when we measured her, she was 8.9 feet across. So that doesn't seem like she grew a lot. She maybe grew like 5 inches or something. So this may show that mantas grow slowly. We know that they grow slowly and take a long time to reach maturity. But being able to tell with those spot pattern photos, we can look at how mantas grow. We can also look at their threats. Unfortunately, right after we met Lizard, she was hit by a boat. You can see this injury on her right pectoral fin. But the good thing about manta rays is they heal really, really quickly. You can see this image just a month later, and the wound is healing. And then within the year, that wound had completely healed, and you could just see the scars of it. We've also seen Lizard entangled in fishing line. You can see up here, she has a fishing lure attached in her shoulder. There's her boat strike scars. And then on her other side, she has fishing line wrapped around her left pectoral fin. So she has 2 pieces of fishing gear on her right now. Luckily, Lizard is a very, very friendly manta. And I was swimming with her, and I was able to dive down like I do right here and just pull that fishing line off with my hand because the hooks weren't in too deep. So anytime we see a manta with fishing line, we do try to remove it because it can, if it gets wrapped around them, like when they're doing that barrel roll feeding, it can cause injury. So I wanted to talk to you guys about discovery and exploration, since this is called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And I know a lot of people, when they think of exploration, they think about, traveling long distances and going deep into the jungle where no one's ever been before, or going down into a submarine, into like deep sea canyons. But that doesn't have to be what exploration looks like. For me, it looked like this. This is the coast of South Florida. This is the Miami skyline. And this is a beach where, thousands of people visit every week, but no one had studied these manta rays here before. I was the first person to study manta rays in Florida. The reason I found out about manta rays is because I was a turtle researcher when I first moved to Florida. So I would drive that ATV up and down the beach, collecting data on sea turtles all day. And sometimes I would see manta rays swimming by. And I did some research, found that no one knew anything about them, and then just started very slowly to ask questions and learn. And so this shows that you don't have to go far distances to become an explorer. You just have to ask the right questions. And so some of the cool discoveries we've made in Florida, we have found a rare manta ray nursery habitat. So this is a place where baby manta rays can grow safely before they move up to their adult habitats. Like I just said, they're along the Florida coastline where there's millions of people. So we do see a lot of injuries from boat strikes and fishing line entanglement. And one of my favorite things is people never believe me that the mantas they are seeing are juveniles. So I want to ask a question really fast. This is a picture of a manta ray fetus. So this was dissected out of a female who was caught in a fishery. And so their fins are folded up over their back because that's the only way they'll fit in the mom's stomach. If they were spread out, they wouldn't fit. So how big do you think a manta ray is when it's born?
Ooh, is it 6 inches, 1 foot, 3 feet, 6 feet? What do we think? I've never seen a picture quite like that. That's so interesting. It makes perfect sense to fold them up. And we've actually, it's funny, in the past with Marine Megafauna Foundation, we've talked about baby whale sharks too. And really, really neat research in some of these things. And the fact that we don't know much about this and that we're just learning about these in the last few decades are really neat. Okay, C or D, so 3 feet, 6 feet. Maybe we could use the hand of the person compared to the manta ray as a little bit of an example. A lot of 3 feet. Almost everyone is saying 3 feet.
Well, so don't go by necessarily this picture because this is a fetus that's still in development.
Okay. So it gets even bigger, maybe. Well, so C is our pretty much universal answer from everyone, which is very neat. Okay. What's our answer?
Okay. So are we ready to be amazed? It's 6 feet.
Crazy. I am amazed.
Yeah. So what's crazy is no one has ever seen a manta ray born in the wild. We do not know where it happens. The only place people have seen manta rays being born is at an aquarium in Japan. And that's where we have this data about their birth size, which was around 1.8 meters, which is 6 feet. So they're truly very big babies. And I have conversations all the time with people when I tell them this is a manta ray nursery habitat. They're like, but the manta we saw was so big. And then I was like, how big? They're like 8 to 10 feet. And I'm like, that's still a juvenile manta ray. So, despite these creatures being very big, they can be quite young, which is always very surprising to people. We also discovered an important reproductive area. This is right off the coast of Cape Canaveral, where all the shuttle launches are. In fact, sometimes we have to pause our research for shuttle launches to happen. And so what we see here in the video on the left is courtship behavior. So female manta rays are bigger than male manta rays. So the female manta ray is in front and the male manta ray is behind. And basically he will just chase her around for hours and hours and hours until she is ready to mate. And we've observed a lot of this behavior. Unfortunately, mating takes place very quickly, so that's very rarely observed. But on the right, this year, only a couple months ago, we documented our first pregnant female in Florida. So you can see this kind of bulge on her belly shows that she's pregnant. They have one pup at a time, obviously, because they're so large. So we're slowly learning about this area being an important reproductive area and probably a very important area to protect. Another cool discovery is mantas at the mouth of the Mississippi River, which the Mississippi River opens right up onto the Gulf of Mexico. And I always thought my career as a marine biologist would take me to like an exotic island off Fiji or Africa or something. But instead, it's taken me to the murky waters of Louisiana. And these waters, you can barely see in them. They're filled with sharks. We'll have to stop research. As you see, there's a manta feeding in front here. And then this is a big shipping channel for ships. So the mantas will be in here. And unfortunately, what we're seeing a lot of is manta rays are getting caught in the shrimp trawl fisheries in the Gulf of Mexico. And we're just learning a lot about this. But it is a threat that we're very concerned about and that we're continuing to research. So because of fisheries and other things, manta rays are unfortunately endangered. Because they're so big and they grow so slow and they only have one pup at a time, it takes them a long time to recover from any kind of threat or any kind of endangerment. So some of their threats include microplastics. So remember, they're eating all those little tiny shrimp from the water. These plastics can be the same size and they get filtered in right along with the plankton. They can be entangled in fishing nets and mooring lines. Remember, I said they have to keep breathing, or not breathing, they have to keep swimming in order to breathe. So if they get tangled up in something and can't move through the water, then they can't breathe and will drown. Boat strikes, which is especially an issue we see here in Florida. But the largest threat around the world are fisheries. Manta rays are sometimes caught by accident, like in the shrimp fishery I just showed you, but sometimes they're also targeted either for their meat, like you see here in this market, or there's also an emerging trade in their gill plates, which are those structures that filter out the plankton, and they're sold for a lot of money as these medicines in Asia. And that's been driving a lot of the trade for them being endangered. So what can you guys do? I'm going to show you a cool video of lots of other animals we get to see on our Florida Manta Project surveys while I talk to you guys. So what can you guys do? I mean, always making sure we have a clean environment and clean oceans, and reducing your waste is super important. You can be an advocate for the ocean and marine life. Go home and tell your parents about it. Let other people know. I mean, when I started studying mantas in Florida, people didn't know there were mantas in Florida. No one seemed to know anything about it. So a big part of what I do is just raising awareness. You can even have like a little fundraiser at your school and raise money for marine research. So there's like lots of things you can do. And I just wanted to iterate again that, you know, to be an explorer or, you know, to find out something interesting, you really don't have to go halfway across the world. You can look in your own backyard and just ask questions, make observations, and see what's around you. And look at this beautiful little hammerhead. I love her. And yes, so teachers or anybody, if you want to take a screenshot and look at all of our information or a photo, but that is my presentation. Thank you, guys.
Jessica, what a fantastic presentation. We'll leave that up. And again, this is on YouTube, so if you want to check this out a little later, we'll pass along some marinemegafauna.org resources to all our classes at the end too. So stay tuned for those in an email when we're done. If you want to come out of screen share so you can see us again, have a bit of a conversation, we're going to dive in with our Kahoot first. So for those who are new to Kahoot, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And what you win is Jessica and I's everlasting respect. So no pressure at all. Jessica, if you want to help us out with any of the answers as we go along, some of these are very similar to questions you might have asked in the middle of your program. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, everybody. But we're going to bring this up and get it underway. There's 19 of you already in, which is spectacular. And then we're going to do questions. So one by one through our live classes, we've got a ton of folks joining in on YouTube. So we look forward to all your questions as well. You can start sharing anytime. But we're going to get underway with this and dive in literally and figuratively. Here we go. All right. Mantas. Dun, dun, dun. 3, 2, 1. All right. Mantas are pelagic. That means they spend most of their time where? Near the coast, in open water, near mangroves, or in cold water, frozen mangrove or mantas in the Arctic. What do we think? Let's get that answer in. We featured a few near the coast, but they are all around the world. And if you want to give us a little hint, yeah.
There's a diamond shape right here.
Flat, out in open water. Yes, most of you got this right. Way to go, everybody. Okay, let's see what that does. Elated Oryx is in our lead over Amusing Jaguar. You can let us know who you are in the chat after the broadcast is done as well. Mantas get to be how wide? Wingtip to wingtip. 1 meter, 3 meters, 5 meters, 7 meters. We talked about this a little earlier in feet. What do we think? The babies are over a meter. So that should give you a little bit of a hint on where we're going with this. And if you've ever joined me for a Kahoot before, I like big numbers. The bigger the number, the happier I am, Jessica. So yes, 7 meters. They're just unbelievable. Imagine you're swimming along in something that's like 4-5 times the length of you, bigger if you're one of our kids in our classroom, swims up beside you. They're just unbelievably majestic animals. And Lady Dorks keeps our lead, nailing that one too. Question 3. Mantas feed on what? What are they eating? Is it seagrass, crabs, plankton, or fish? Not people. They're not there. They have big mouths. You could probably fit inside, but they don't eat you. I promise. Seagrass doesn't seem like their sort of thing. We talked about this a bunch throughout the broadcast. You guys have been nailing it on the first 2 questions, so it's a good start. Mr. Hancock, we are going to come to you first for questions in a minute. Plankton is correct. Most of you got this right. Way to go. Okay. Our final query for all the marbles as the leaderboard narrows going into our final question. True or false? Mantas have a stinger, just like other ray species. We talked about mantas versus stingrays at the beginning. Do they have that stinger? Yes, no? What do we think? Get those answers in. And thank you to our YouTubers for starting to share questions already. You rock, Miss Jow's class. Awesome. All right. 8 more seconds. Get it in. Get it in. Ooh, a lot of you thought true. Okay, so Jessica, to confirm, mantas do not have a stinger.
No, they don't. But I can give a but to those true people.
Please.
They don't have a functional stinger. There is one embedded in a calcified mass that's kind of like this vestigial organ or structure that's not functional anymore. So it is there for one of the species, but it's not functional. It can't hurt you.
I have actually never heard that. That's entirely news to me, and it's super cool. Some whales have like embedded little back legs inside their bodies too. Under
exactly like that.
Cool. All right, well, that changed our leaderboard entirely. Soaring Deer takes our win. Let us know who you are in the chat in a second. And we are going to dive in with a nice long Q&A because Jessica is a master of speeding through a broadcast. So, Mr. Hancock, we'll head to Georgetown first. Come on in and take us away with our first question. Hey.
Yeah, the Soaring Deer celebrating here. But one of the students noticed there are tiny fish underneath the manta ray. What are you doing there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the fish underneath the manta, what are they doing there? Are they eating things? Are they hurting the manta? What's the deal?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We're actually writing a paper on all these species now. Most likely they're hiding, like looking for shelter. This big creature, you're less likely to get attacked by a shark if you're hiding under something big than if you're swimming out in the open below yourself. But maybe they also grab food while the manta's eating. And they also might grab food off the manta. We're not really sure, but mostly for protection.
I love that you're doing some research on this actively as well, but we've covered things like a remora fish before in our broadcast, and just the idea that you're a fish and there's this giant monster fish that you can hide under so that things won't attack you is super, super cool. So I love that question. Thanks.
Well, and they're adapted to do it too. They have a big suction cup head that they just...
I was gonna tell that next, and that's so. I encourage you to look up remora. They're so cool. They're weird suction cup heads. Imagine if you like went along and like flapped your head onto an elephant and stuck with it so that the lions wouldn't get you. It'd be super weird, and that's what exists in the ocean. It's really neat stuff. All right, Miss Vander's class, we're coming to you next. St. Dominic after that, and we'll head to our YouTubers after that. Come on in and take
All right.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. Go ahead.
What is manta ray's lifespan?
Ooh, that's a good question. Waving to everyone in the back. So we don't have an exact answer for this. One of the reasons is because we don't see where they're born. Like we've never seen one born, so you can't track it from birth to adulthood. But based on seeing those spot patterns, identifying individuals over time, we think they live at least to 40 years, maybe more, but that's something that still needs to be researched more.
We stumped the expert. I love when this happens, and I love highlighting this because we've covered a lot of the biggest animals in the oceans of the world: blue whales, whale sharks, manta rays. The little we know about them is amazing. Like the fact that even though they're huge, they're very hard to track. Oceans are very big places. This is sort of, it underscores that for you kids, you can end up growing up to be a biologist. Jessica can be your supervisor, and you can go find out the answers to all these things, which would be very, very cool. So thanks, Ms. Vanek. St. Dominic, come on in and take us away. Unmute your mic. Hi, guys. Hi. What do manta rays eat?
No, where are the manta rays here?
Where are their ears? Cool question.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, like most fish, they don't have like external ears like us, but they have like kind of little like canals on the side of their head. But we don't really know much about manta ray hearing at all. I think that would be another study that could easily be done.
We are creating all the biologists together. That's very exciting. Now, you mentioned something, which is that a lot of people don't know that there are mantas off Florida. I must admit, in the lead up to this broadcast, I did not know that. I've always wanted to see mantas. I went snorkeling with them in Hawaii. I thought I had to go that far, and they were right down the coast the whole time. So our question from YouTube is, where can we find mantas? Are they everywhere? Are there places that they aren't? Is there like a limit to their range for someone up like in Newfoundland like me, which might be a little too cold for them? What's the deal?
Well, yeah, so they're found in the Indian, Pacific, and Atlantic Oceans. They're mostly found in tropics to subtropics, but they can go into temperate waters. Like there are some mantas seen off the coast of like New York, I think is about as far north as they go. And I made a joke to a Canadian presentation a little while ago that maybe with climate change, you will have mantas off your coast someday.
I mean, we'd be happy to have them. We're not saying no. We just want there to not be that climate change, that they stay a little further south. We can come to Florida.
Yeah.
Caesar is joining in Nicaragua, and he has a great question, which we've never had about mantas before. What's the purpose of their tail? What's the deal?
Oh, that's a great question. Someone actually was telling me there's this like brand new research on the tail, and it helps stabilize them in the water. Some really smart math people did a bunch of experiments and found that a tail helps keep them like stable from being tippy.
Interesting.
I always thought it might be more for predation, because if you accidentally swim and touch their tail, they really don't like it. They freak out. So like, I think if like it helps when sharks sneak up behind them, but yeah, that's a fantastic question.
It is a fantastic question, and both very cool answers. I wouldn't have thought either one of those. So way to go, Caesar. Great question, man. Mr. Chittich class is joining me in my original hometown of Toronto, and Marco wants to know, what's the longest or biggest manta ray ever found? Do we have like an all-time superlative?
I mean, so that picture I showed you at the beginning, around 7 meters, is probably the biggest. Those are found off the coast of Ecuador, and they tend to be massive. The problem is it's difficult to measure manta rays. A lot of these size estimates are from people just, looking at it and saying, I think that's about 6 meters. There are ways to measure a manta, but we don't want to capture them and run a piece of measuring tape across. So we have a way to measure them with lasers and a way to measure them with the drone, but it's a complicated subject. So to get good data on it is hard.
I'm really glad you mentioned the lasers. And before we go back to our live class, I'm going to harp on that for a second. So what's the deal with the lasers? Tell us a little more.
Oh man, I wish I could pull up a video real fast.
I
But
know.
wait 1 second.
Here we go. If you have lasers to bring onto this broadcast that just happen to be like hanging around your living room, I'll be very impressed. Unbelievable. Yes. So cool.
So I guess I shouldn't turn the lasers on in case I accidentally blind somebody. But so we have these lasers that are 60 centimeters apart. And what we do is we shine them on the manta ray, and we have a camera filming in the middle. So then we get a picture that'll have a picture of the manta and the two lasers. So when we take it in the computer, we know that the lasers are 60 centimeters apart, and then we can measure the rest of the manta for a more accurate measurement.
Super, super cool. You're the first person to ever have that as a prop in any of our broadcasts, even though it's been talked about well over 100 times. So I encourage you to look up laser measuring online. You'll see it really easily if you Google it. And it's like being able to project a ruler onto something far away, which is super, super neat. So great question, guys. All right, Mr. Hancock, we're back to you. Georgetown, take us away, guys.
Hey. Yeah, sure. Laser measuring. We're going to look that up. One of the students was wondering, do they sleep? How long do they sleep? What does sleep look like?
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's another great question. Again, that we don't have like an exact answer. But so for fish, sleep is going to look differently than it is for like a human. Like I said, a manta ray has to keep swimming in order to breathe. So they're never going to be able to just like lay down in the sand and take a nap. they're always going to have to be swimming. But what we have seen, I mean, one thing I'm studying here in Florida is we find them in currents, either natural currents or like man-made currents from channels. And they kind of go into these currents and just face into the current and kind of just hover there. And so I think this is a way that they might rest and use the current to generate lift to kind of hold them in place. So the water runs over their gills and they can breathe without having to flap so much. But this is another very difficult thing to study, and we're working on it.
Super, super cool. We've talked about animals sleep in a lot of broadcasts. Maybe our classes might know that dolphins famously could turn off half their brain at a time. We've had birds that literally do sleep on the wing. So they're flying while they're sleeping. We know this quite definitively. But again, novel area of research. We're learning a lot about human sleep right now, much less animal sleep, but it often looks quite different because they have different requirements than us and they have to avoid predators and other things like having to swim in order to breathe. So really cool question. Thanks, Mr. Hancock. All right, Mrs. Vanek's class, come on back in. We'll come to you and then we'll take a few from our YouTube channel and maybe wrap up with St. Dominic in a minute. Hey, Maple Ridge.
Do any other animals eat manta rays?
Ooh.
That's a great question. So manta rays don't have a lot of predators because one of their biggest protections is just being massive. You know, they're really big, so there's not a lot out there that can eat them. But they do get bitten by sharks. A lot of times sharks will take little bites out of the back of them. And as long as the sharks aren't getting into the body cavity, they survive really well. At our study site in Mozambique, like 80% of the mantas have shark bites. So sharks, and then of course orcas can also predate and eat mantas because orcas are the kings of the ocean. And
thank you for that. All hail the orca. No matter what species we feature, great whites, blue whales, anything, orca eat everything. They're just like the apex turbo predator of the ocean. I really encourage you, look up an orca skull. It's the most metal thing in the history of nature. It's very awesome. All right, some great ones from YouTube, and then we're going to wrap up with St. Dominic in a minute. Time flies and you're having fun. So we've got time for 3 more questions together before we wrap up. Miss Zhao's class in Hillsdale, New Jersey, they want to know, do mantas stay in groups or are they loners? What's the deal?
Yeah, so they are social animals. Like I showed you that video where they're feeding, they will get together and feed. And in places like the Maldives, like hundreds of mantas will get together and feed, and they will cooperatively feed all at the same time. So they make this manta tornado. If you Google like a YouTube video of cyclone feeding, you'll find it. And they make this big tornado that kind of gathers all the plankton together, so it helps them feed together more efficiently. They'll also kind of get together when it's time to reproduce. You know, I showed you just a video of one male chasing a female, but it can be up to 10 to 20 males chasing a female around, and they can do this for hours and hours. So yeah, they are quite social creatures.
Very, very cool. I love the cyclone feeding thing. We're going to make sure, again, check that out. I just put it up as a banner so you can look at that again on the YouTube channel if you miss it. One more from YouTube. Miss Nielsen wants to know, how big is Stevie Ray particularly? We saw this manta a couple of weeks ago, and is there a site to look up the data on different mantas off the coast of Florida? Like, do we have this?
Oh my goodness, Stevie Ray. Oh, I don't have it off the top of my head. I would have to go on my database right now, but I'm pretty sure he's a pretty standard manta ray for Florida. So he's about 8 feet, which is 2.4 meters. But yeah, was that the only question?
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. There's not many species, I will say, just on a note for that species, there's not many creatures on this planet that are big enough to warrant their own names and sort of like characterizations where we follow them along. So mantas are really special that way. It sort of instinctually makes me want to conserve them more. I think whenever we have that sort of human connection with a creature. So do look things like that up. There's a lot more than there ever been. And it's a really neat way to sort of fall in love with wildlife. So great question, guys. All right, St. Dominic, coming to you. Come on in and unmute your mic. You're good to go. Hey. Yeah. Do they go different places in the wintertime? What do they do seasonally, Jessica?
Oh, fantastic question. I didn't show you any boring seasonal charts. But yeah, so in Florida, we tend to see the juvenile mantas mostly from June to December. And so where they go when they're not here, we don't fully know. But from some of our satellite tracking data, it kind of seems like they might go north, which is the opposite of what you would think. And I don't know exactly why they would do it.
Cool.
But yeah, we still have a lot to learn about where they go and why.
It's been one of our big messages throughout the program, and I love how cheerily you say it every time, because science is always about learning new things. It's posing those new questions, it's going out and exploring. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes money, it takes collaborations around the world to make this sort of science possible, and we get to understand one of the coolest creatures on planet Earth with it. So you guys are the best audience in a long time. Thank you for your really thoughtful questions today, and I'll share this all in an email to everyone, but marinemegafauna.org, specifically the Florida Manta Project, and then Jessica was kind enough to pass along lesson plans. If you want to like make this a bigger thing with your class now or in the future, there's lots of opportunity to do that. No one does it better than them, and some really cool stuff to check out. Now, Jessica, before we wrap up and bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell, is there any final message you want to leave us with about your amazing work?
No, I just feel so lucky to do this. I absolutely love what I do, and I'm glad you guys all wanted to hear about it.
No better message than that. Thank you guys as an audience. Do check us out for the rest of Ocean Week. Share this with your family and friends. And as you may well know, audience, we're going to bring you all in to say a big thank you and farewell. If you're on YouTube and you want to scream and yell, annoy the principal, you have our permission to do that too. But Mr. Hancock, Dominic, Miss